At 2:17 a.m., Sarah's phone buzzed with a call that shouldn't be possible. The caller? Her own number. She stared at the screen, heart hammering. How could she be calling herself? Welcome to the Mystery Files. Tonight we dive into a voicemail that defies time and logic. This isn't just a ghost story, it's a documentation of a loop that Sarah was never meant to escape. She checked the logs, hoping for a glitch. But there it was. A list of outgoing calls she never made, all time-stamped for the next hour. The phone felt like ice in her hand. The voicemail started with static, then her own voice whispered, "Don't open the door. In 10 seconds, the hallway light will flicker. Then a glass will shatter." Right on cue, the hallway light died. The first prediction was exactly right. Sarah backed into the room, breath visible in the cold air. The reality of the situation was setting in. She wanted to believe it was just a short circuit. But the smell of burnt electricity was too real. The voice knew. It knew the exact moment the light would die. One prediction down, but Sarah was still hoping it was a coincidence. The second warning, however, would change everything. Next, the voice continued, "The glass on the kitchen counter will shatter." Seconds later, it slid across the granite and exploded. 2 for 2. Sarah was now trapped in a scripted reality. There was no wind, no tremor. The glass hadn't just fallen, it had been forced. She was sharing her apartment with something she couldn't see, guided by a voice she couldn't trust. 3 predictions, all true. Sarah realized the caller knew her every move. She turned to her security system for answers. "He's outside," the voice sobbed. "Do not look through the peephole." A massive silhouette stood there, unmoving, a silent, waiting threat just inches away. A low, guttural thud shook the frame. The intruder wasn't just standing there, he was coming in. Sarah sprinted away from the door, her mind racing. She tried to build a wall of furniture, but the sound of the scratching followed her. It wasn't just at the front door anymore. It was everywhere. In the walls, in the floor. The security feed showed an empty hallway, but the shadow was still there. That's when Sarah noticed the missing minute. An entire minute had been erased from the digital record. 60 seconds of time vanished. Sarah tried to rewind, but the system refused. A hole had opened in the universe. She heard a vibration inside the wall. Behind the plaster, she found it, her own phone. Identical, but the clock was set to tomorrow. The bridge to the future was in her hands. The second phone wasn't just recording audio, it was a live feed of her own terror. Someone was watching her through the very eyes of the future. She was the star of a horror movie she hadn't finished writing. The voicemail she received at 2:17 was currently being recorded by this phone from the future. Sarah was being haunted by herself. She realized the intruder was just bait to keep her in the room. The air began to ripple, forming a shimmering portal to a dark, cold version of her own office. She saw herself, the caller, trapped one night ahead, desperately trying to save the girl she used to be. The realization hit like a physical blow. The loop was closing. She wouldn't become that person. Sarah threw open the window and climbed into the rain, just as the lock snapped and red light spilled from her office. She didn't look back. She ran until her lungs burned, leaving the temporal trap behind. She reached the neon lights of the city, and finally, she felt safe. Then, her phone buzzed. She looked down and saw the red recording light. It had opened by itself. Her heart sank. The nightmare wasn't over. It was just shifting. She tried to shout for help, but only the static came out. The city around her began to fade into the familiar shadows of her apartment. She began to speak, the words coming out without her control. "Don't open the door," she whispered. The warning wasn't a rescue. It was the prophecy she had to fulfill. Some warnings are prophecies we write for ourselves. Subscribe to Naboth Official for more mysteries. I'll see you in the next loop.